Hello and welcome to another episode of the Learn Easy Cast. How are you doing, Pat?
I'm good, Rico. How are you? It's been a
I'm
while.
doing
Happy
well.
New Year. Belated.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you in Germany. I'm joining
Yep.
today from Medellin, Colombia, where I
Wow.
moved in December, early December of last year.
Yeah, congratulations, Rico. You're an expat now.
You know, we've been talking about it. I guess I wanted to get in on the fun,
Yeah.
and I'm really happy with my choice. Just trying to sort out my immigration status at the moment. How have things been going in Germany? I know there's been a lot of discussion about oil prices and energy,
Yeah.
the economy, inflation. How has that been affecting you personally and just in general in Germany?
Yeah, I mean, generally, the German government has been trying its best to subsidize the German people a bit, but the prices are still quite high here for lots of goods, and sometimes, there are shortages that, I've never seen before for some commodities that you would never think of, like mustard. There's something simple as that. Or I heard of something similar in the U.S. where everybody's thinking that the price of eggs is too high. That's something we have plenty of here in Germany, Rico. But how about in your situation in Colombia? Is the inflation an issue there, or is it just a different level of life there?
Well, I think for Colombians and expats who've been living in Colombia, they've experienced the uptick, of course, in prices due to the rise in inflation. I know a lot of costs of consumer goods have gone up, but also coming from the US with the dollar and paying in pesos, I've been lucky enough to sort of feel like I'm getting everything on a discount. But I have started to see how the price of certain goods is going up. It's still cheaper for the most part than a lot of products in the US, especially around groceries and produce. It's usually cheaper here. But a lot of other consumer goods, electronics and such, has definitely gone up as well. But overall, I feel like, again, just having a dollar to spend with here in Colombia, I've been able to sort of like stave off a lot of those feelings that people have been confronted with. But nonetheless, still looking to, of course, get into the best possible situation, but enjoying my life here in Colombia thus far.
Yeah, that's great. And just to let everyone know, Rico is available to teach through Learn Easy.
Yeah,
He's one of
absolutely.
our, top teachers, so he'll be available for you guys while he's in Colombia. Take advantage of it. For sure, we're happy to have him as a great resource as an English teacher for us. Hopefully, it'll continue for as long as Rico wants to do it.
Yeah, one of the choices I've really decided to do here living in Colombia is one, participate in this content creator accelerator program, really with the hopes of being independent. So I'm a freelancer now, working on various projects, and it's been a lot of fun to have my hands in a lot of different baskets, if you will, of work. And so I'm very open to continuing my teaching, working with students who want to become more proficient and more conversant in English.
Yeah.
But
Awesome.
with that being said, I think we should go ahead and get into our experts corner. I'm
Yep.
really looking forward to today's interview. We have a really exciting interviewee with a really amazing organization. And so why don't we go ahead and jump to our interview? Patrice Gans founded Random Hacks of Kindness Jr. in 2014. She brings expertise in both STEM education and community engagement. Prior to launching RHOK Jr., Patrice taught computer science at Fraser Woods Montessori School in Newtown, Connecticut. She has served on the board of directors of the Computer Science Teachers Association as her national K-8 representative and written extensively about her experiences teaching computer science at the elementary and middle school levels. Patrice is passionate about exposing students to coding and computer science concepts as early as possible and has taught age-appropriate computational skills using robotics, Scratch, and App Inventor. Welcome, Patrice. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing great. And so we always like
Good.
just to launch right into the questions, and so feel free to add whatever level of color and detail you'd like. How did you start Random Hacks of Kindness Jr.?
Well, as you mentioned in your introduction, I taught at a school called Fraser Woods, Montessori School in Newtown. I was teaching K through 8, and my older students, which would have been the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, I was teaching computer science principles, some coding, and things like that. And I had a conversation with them about if they recognize the importance of coding and what you can do with coding and all they seemed to really connect with was playing games or watching YouTube videos or maybe receiving and sending email, something that I thought was kind of missing the boat or point. So I found out about an organization called Random Hacks of Kindness, and they were doing hackathons where they were bringing, I guess, college students together, with what we called NGOs to create like a hackathon environment, like a full weekend where they were invited to create solutions for these NGOs because it was a global day of kindness or something like that. It sounded like something I really thought would work well with my students. So I created and modified the model to make it work for young kids. I didn't want them to not be able to participate because they didn't have the coding background. And I also know that they really connect with something given the opportunity to meet with people one-on-one. So what I mean by that is I invited nonprofits to come in person to meet with the kids, to share what they were doing. I invited computer science students from a local university, computer science majors from a local university, to be the mentors. And they spent 7 hours learning about the nonprofit, coming up with some designs. They could actually code in whatever platform the mentor was comfortable with. I was kind of aiming towards pushing for App Inventor because I wanted them to create what I thought would be authentic programs that they could connect with, something that maybe they could use after the fact.
Can you just tell us a little bit about App Inventor?
Sure. So the interesting thing is we have since gone to another modality. We now use Code.org's App Lab, but both of them are very, very similar. So the idea is we use a coding platform that's in the cloud that is block-based, so the kids don't have to know syntax. It's design-based. What that means is that they have something where they can actually create what they want the app to look like first, and then if time permits, they can go and create the code. App Inventor has more sensors they can use because it actually connects to a phone, so it kind of creates a little bit more diverse types of apps for the kids to create. App Lab is an app, but it's really like a website because that's all in JavaScript. But all of them are both of them, I should say, are constantly coming up with really cool modules for the kids to play with and to learn. So it's a great launching point or jumping off point for them to learn about coding because it builds on skills they already have from using block-based coding in their classrooms.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, you mentioned the age group is around 4th grade to start with, but have you started with kids even younger, or is that really where you think it belongs?
So the hackathons, basically, we start with 4th through 8th. Now, I pretty much started with 4th grade because that, very initially back in 2014, because that was the age group of my students at the school, right? I wanted them to be able to participate. I have found since then that does seem to be the best age for them to start in terms of being able to last a full day at a hackathon. I mean, it can be long and hard, so the hackathon itself, not only do you learn to code, but you learn other soft skills as well, communication, collaboration. I do coding myself to younger kids through the Girl Scouts, so I have done it as young as kindergarten. There are apps out there for people if they wanted to teach even younger.
Do you feel like that's because people talk about screen time and that being an issue? Do you see that really as a real problem?
I don't think so. I don't know. That's a really tough one because it's funny. There's been some work now done on people that are really good in video games might develop certain skill sets that other people don't have because they're playing video games. I think that if you're putting down a child in front of a computer and just leaving them there no matter what you're doing, it's probably not a good thing because you want to interact with your child. You want to see what they're doing. You want to comment on what they're doing. I like the idea of coding because it feels like you're putting the control in the hand. You're learning to code. You're learning to recognize and understand what you can do with the computer as opposed to somebody else telling you what you want. You get to be the driver. Everybody has different tastes. I'm not a big computer game person.
How many participants do you have at these hackathons in general?
We like to say now pre-pandemic. So before the pandemic, we would have numbers ranging from maybe as high as, so numbers representing the kids, the mentors, and the nonprofits, maybe up to 80, 90 people, right?
Wow. Okay.
And those were the 4th through 8th graders, right? And we've had on the other end where now virtually maybe I'll have, maybe 10 kids and then plus
Cool.
5 mentors or something like that. So it really unfortunately depends on the location of where the hackathon is being held, how many kids will come, depends on how many people know about it, maybe the time of year. There's a lot of factors.
How about the gender breakdown between boys and girls? Is it split down the middle? Do you tend to see one more than the other?
Since the pandemic, I've been doing a lot of girls coding programs. In the sense I have a Girls Who Code. Now I'm just doing it virtual, but I had Girls Who Code. And because of that, and because I was coding with the Girl Scouts, I create these personal relationships and a lot of girls come. The virtual hackathons are more girls than boys.
Great.
I think it's a 50-50 split. I think it's been changing because initially when I was teaching and I had like after school coding clubs, it was mostly boys because parents thought if their child, boy, played computer games, they were primed to learn computer programming. And if their girl was not interested in that, they weren't pushing it. They didn't see any value in it. I felt maybe sometimes for the boys, they were, again, this is all stereotypes.
Of course.
They would feel that the boy that was into computer games liked to do things on their own and wasn't very social. So this was something they thought would kind of get them out of their shell. They didn't think their daughters need that maybe. So it was never really pushed towards girls. Now I think it's becoming more even.
That's great.
And
We
I
need
don't
that.
know, I do know, like I have a lot of mentors, high school students, and a lot of the high school students will self-report that in their classes in high school, they're still very much in the minority. There's like this drop-off, like kids in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade will really try it out, both boys and girls, and then once you get to middle school, sometimes the girls lose interest or society kind of pushes them out of it. They don't see the role models or they think the boys are nerdy. They don't want to be seen with the nerdy boys. And so in high school, there's a large drop-off. I think college, no, I'm not sure. I know overall in the industry, there's a lot more men than women. Meaning that gender-wise,
Unfortunately.
if there's 50% men and 50% women, because, it's maybe 25 or 30%, in a field, and even less than that are women. So there is a drop-off somewhere. We just haven't quite figured out why.
So it sounds
Yeah.
like you're stepping in and trying to really encourage girls and young women to consider this as a field of study or as an interest that they should pursue.
Not only do I want them to consider it an interest, I want them to enjoy it. I also want them to be recognized for their efforts in the field. And maybe that, so we talk about mentoring. I know a lot of the high school girls that I work with really like working with younger girls. So creating that bond between
Yes.
the younger girls and the high school girls and college girls, it creates a pathway for them that I think helps them to keep going.
I think
That's
mentorship
great.
is very key in helping that pathway to exist, grow, and flourish.
Young kids love high school kids. They just love them so
Yeah.
much. That relationship obviously doesn't last because, as soon as they leave, they forget about that person. It does create a positive memory for them and a positive experience to help them to keep coming back.
I just follow up really quick on that question because you've held this program for a while now, and have you seen some positive feedback with the kids coming back again and again? Have they grown to take it as a course at university, computer science? Have you gotten a couple coming back?
So I've been doing it,
technically.
as you mentioned, for a while, so that a lot of the girls and probably boys, I don't hear so much from the boys as I do from the girls. I know more about the path of the girls than the boys. I had a couple of students that came and joined as 4th graders that did go on to become mentors in high school that are now currently studying computer science in college and beyond.
You've mentioned both virtual hackathons and now live hackathons, but do you have other future plans for your organization?
We do hackathons, as you said. I'm looking to partner with other organizations to continue the hackathon model, but to do it in more locations. We also hold monthly meetups where people can just come and learn some coding concepts. I do a Girls Who Code Club. I'm involved in something called the Million Women Mentors, the Connecticut chapter. Their push is STEM, okay? Everybody's push is STEM. Science, technology, engineering, and math. My push is coding.
I
So,
like that.
STEM is the big thing, and I totally support it. but I really believe in coding and computer programming. What's interesting is the field of computer programming itself is growing. We have a lot
Yes.
of, there's probably this whole discussion on chat.
GPT.
GPT.
Yes, thank
Yes.
you. So AI, data science, cybersecurity. I mean, there's a lot of things within the umbrella of computer science that can now be offered to kids. So that might be another way of branching out, would be to offer additional different types of computing opportunities that aren't necessarily hackathons, but they're still computing.
Understood.
Absolutely. I know this is maybe a little off topic. I just have to ask, though, what are your thoughts on students developing skills that maybe aren't necessarily offered at the traditional university setting, especially the opportunity to code and make money? I've seen so many high school students now today running their own businesses, whether it be through social media, whether it be through coaching or coding, things like that. What are your thoughts on really, I mean, ultimately, isn't it being able to make a living for yourself, finding work that's engaging and fulfilling? What are your thoughts on developing those skills and encouraging students to gain those technical skills?
So it's a really interesting thing, right? So I think everybody's passions maybe change as they get older, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I took up coding when I was very young. Well, take that back, not very young. I was in college, so I wasn't that young, but feels young now. I took up coding. I took a very short little course. I learned Fortran, but I really enjoyed it because I liked the challenge. It's like a puzzle, okay? So coding can be something people enjoy for the challenge. Can be something they enjoy because they can make really good money out of it, right? Or for me now, what I really like is using coding in a scientific setting to make a difference. I have a hackathon coming up with an organization out of New Haven, Connecticut, and it's with a professor, and she's doing something called Project Blue, and it's all about a sustainable economy, and it's all about addressing the UN sustainable goals. So when I think about using computing and developing apps to help animals in the environment, I get all choked up. So that's what matters to me. Right? I think everybody should find their own passion. If they find something and they do it because it makes them money. I mean, yes, obviously learning to code will help the economic gap. And it's really important to provide that opportunity for people, especially in communities where they don't necessarily have those opportunities, right?
Yes.
Because maybe it can lift them up out of poverty, but they ultimately will then have to make the decision for themselves, right? If that's a career choice they want. I think, I felt the way with my daughter is that you need to be exposed to things so then you can make a decision on what you want to do. I can't make the decision for you, even though I'd like to.
You brought up a good point about the pandemic. So did that period make it really tough to fundraise for your non-for-profit?
So it's interesting. So the very first year, so in 2020, we do two things a year that are considered fundraising campaigns. The first one we do is something called Give Local, and that is run by something called a community foundation. The idea is it's located in a certain geographic area, and it serves nonprofits within that area. So we have one that serves Litchfield County, which is where I am, and then Waterbury. And what they do is they encourage everybody during these couple of days to donate to these charities, and then they match the donations and give some money. So if you gave me $100, maybe they give $10. I would now get $110.
Oh, very nice.
The first year during 2020, we did really well. Okay. Since then, numbers have gone down.
Okay.
It's the grants that I feel have changed.
Okay.
Because I think the pandemic, people want their money to go to things that they think are immediate needs, where they see, you can say, oh, you gave a certain number of people X number of food, number of meals, or you put a roof over their head, or you put clothes on their back. When you're doing education, it's a longer term proposition, and people don't necessarily value that as much as they value the more immediate needs.
You spoke about grants. Is it even more difficult now after the pandemic to apply for grants and so on because of the fraud that occurred?
So I think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like when you go to, let's say you're graduating college and you want to get a job, or you want to get a job at any point in your life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you go to apply for a job and they say to you, I'm sorry, but you need experience. And then when you go to get experience, they don't want, it's this constant thing. You need certain things to get certain points. So
Exactly.
I'm a very small nonprofit. There are a lot of money somewhere for STEM, but I think they're geared towards much larger organizations than mine.
Exactly. Yes, that's the challenge here in Europe as well. These organizations that give the money, they want to give them to large institutions because it's a safer bet.
I wanted to bring the conversation back to just the mentorship between some of the older students and younger students. How do you go about cultivating this mentorship? Is there anything that you've learned through your years running your organization on the best ways to help sort of, mentorship happen?
So the mentorship basically occurs only during the hackathon. I had been at one point, specifically reaching out and asking people in follow-up surveys if they'd be interested in continuing to work on their app. And I had been thinking of trying to create connections between kids and their mentors to continue to work on that. But again, because people would be coming from all over, that was hard to do. So for example, I had a hackathon in 2019 at a university called Central Connecticut State University. One of my mentors was there, and I think at the time, maybe she was in 10th grade. She mentored in her group this other young lady who might have been in 7th grade at the time. And I didn't know until they actually told me that they were continuing to meet after the hackathon so that the mentor could continue to teach the girl, they're both females, some coding.
Patrice, this has been a fantastic conversation. As we're closing now, I would just like to know, is there a way people can find out more, to learn more about your organization, to connect with you? Would you like us to share any information in particular?
So you can find us, Random Hacks of Kindness Jr., on the web, at https://rhokjr.org. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
Great. We'll be sure to link to this in the show notes for sure.
Okay.
It will also probably put you as a friend of learneasy.com.
Well, it's been a wonderful conversation, Patrice. We want to thank you for coming on to our show. It was really a lot of fun to learn about your organization, and want to wish you the best of luck, both for you and your organization.
Thank you very much.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Thank you.
It's been great.
Wow, what a great interview. It was a lot of fun to learn about Patrice Gans and her organization. Hopefully we'll be able to participate in one of her virtual hackathons, if not one of her live in-person hackathons, right, Pat?
Yeah, as a person that's actually participating in one, it was quite nice to connect to this younger audience of technical folks, of computer coders, young coders, and to see how excited they were to apply what they're learning maybe from these organizations. Patrice connects them to building something that might be valuable to that organization in the future. So that's something that what coding should be used for, not just for profit, but for helping society and improving the lives of others.
Absolutely. Her working as the head of a nonprofit, working in the field of education, two fields very near and dear to me. So it was really great to learn about her and her organization and her desire to really make a difference in the lives of young people, and also encouraging young girls and young women to be interested in and being encouraged to pursue computer science and programming and coding. Very cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have anything else left to say, Pat. It was a great episode. I look forward to our next episode.
Yep.
And
keep
let's just
learning
keep learning easy. All right, everyone. Until next time.